years after the Balakot airstrikes. US intelligence warns of repeat punitive strikes. India under Narendra Modi more likely to use force to punish Pakistan. US intelligence report presented in the US Senate. Both India and Pakistan are nuclear weapon states. But India under Modi more likely to use force to punish Pakistan, says the report. Will Pakistan read the writing on the wall? That's our top focus on India First. Is the US warning Pakistan of more Balakot-like punitive strikes if there are more Pakistan state-sponsored terror strikes in India? Or is the United States actually trying to rekindle the nuclear flashpoint bogey? We'll explain what this nuclear flashpoint bogey is because it's very important to understand this. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former Kashmir Corps commander, and Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi, Executive Director of Pakistan's Center for Strategic International Studies, join me on this special broadcast to decode the US intelligence assessment. There is also an all-out war in Pakistan, a political war in Pakistan between Maryam Nawaz and Imran Khan. Maryam Nawaz has called Imran Khan a gidad, not a leader. She says he's a jackal, he's not a lion. And she's called him worse. We'll get you that story. I'm Gaurav Sawant. As always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. After CBI, ED arrests Manish Sisodia after 2 days of grilling in the Delhi Liquorgate case. Arvind Kejriwal calls it a plot to keep Manish Sisodia in jail. If you have proof, come arrest me. BRS leader K. Kavita dares the Enforcement Directorate in an exclusive interview to India Today's Rajdeep Sardesai. She will appear before the ED on Saturday in the Delhi Liquorgate case. India-Australia cricket diplomacy in Ahmedabad. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Australian counterpart Anthony Albanese attend the fourth test between the two teams. Congress accuses Narendra Modi of being self-absorbed while taking a lap of honor at the stadium named after him. Karnataka bribegate accused BJP MLA Mandal Virupakshapa appears before the Lokayuk. This just days after he was allegedly absconding and resurfaced after getting anticipatory bail. Widows of Pulwama braves stage protests in Jaipur after being assaulted by the Rajasthan police. Anger mounts against the Ashok Gehlot government. BJP says the Congress party has betrayed India's Pulwama heroes. For Australia, India is a top-tier security partner, says Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The Australian Prime Minister is on a 4-day visit to India and was on board INS Vikrant, India's indigenous aircraft carrier in Mumbai. He said he was pleased to formally announce Australia will host the Malabar exercise for the first time this year, bringing together navies of Australia, India, United States and Japan. On board INS Vikrant, the Australian Prime Minister also interacted with Indian Navy personnel, officers and sailors who've carried out joint exercises with the Australian Navy in the past. This is an extremely significant step given that the exercise that started 3 decades ago, Malabar series of exercises that started in 1992 as India-US joint naval exercise, now has Australia and Japan, and Australia was inducted in these high-profile war games to test interoperability. For example, only in 2020, amidst the India-China standoff at the line of actual control. I want to quickly cut across to India Today's Shiv Arur for more on this big story. Shiv, extremely significant development. Expansionist forces like China would be watching this with rising concern, given the fact that the Australian Prime Minister is in India and made this announcement on Indian soil on board an Indian warship.
Gaurav, the Malabar series of exercises is one of the world's most complex, most ambitious, multilateral exercises in the world. It started off, remember, as an India-US exercise. Then Japan joined in after a few years, and now Australia is also part of it. So this is basically a quad exercise, even though it's not being labeled a quad exercise, because remember, the quad always tries to say that it is not a military alliance of any kind. But the flavor of the Malabar is necessarily, obviously, the quad. For the first time, it's going to be happening off the coast of Australia. Very interesting, because the Indo-Pacific has been established as the place where the future lies, where most things will change over the next 50 to 60 years. And these 4 countries have real investments. All of their interests are centered around the Indo-Pacific region. Malabar exercises in the past have happened in the Bay of Bengal. They've happened in the southern Indian Ocean. They've happened, in the South China Sea, off the coast of China as well. Yes. But now, in the Indo-Pacific, off the coast of Australia, it's going to be extremely interesting. Australia so far has had a pretty tentative involvement in Malabar. This will be the first time that they have a large sort of participation in the Malabar exercise. And incrementally, with each passing Malabar exercise, Gaurav, the complexity of the exercise, the interoperability of the ships, submarines and aircraft, of these 3 countries and now 4 countries has grown by leaps and bounds. It's become a situation where, even though the Quad talks about not being part of a military alliance, the Malabar exercise is basically structured in such a way that these 4 countries can go into battle together, can operate together if the need actually arises. So obviously there's a lot of talk about, how Quad is just a talk shop. They don't really, talk about being a military alliance, but the Malabar exercise suggests something else entirely. They may not say it, but obviously it's true.
Oh, absolutely. One adversary, one expansionist power, and you have 4 sets of eyes, so 8 eyes on any Chinese ship that's entering the Indian Ocean region. Clearly, being forewarned is being forearmed. Shiv, that's exactly what's happening. For joining me here, many thanks. Moving on to our top story. The United States, in a threat assessment based on intelligence inputs, has come to the conclusion India, under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is more likely to, than ever in the past, respond with military force to perceived or real provocations from Pakistan. Now, this report also factually records terrorist groups. The US may call them militant groups, but fact remains that terrorists operate with impunity in Pakistan. The report also expresses concern over escalation of tension between India and Pakistan over Kashmir and terror strikes, especially as both India and Pakistan are nuclear weapon states. Global recognition of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's resolve to punish Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. An annual threat assessment report by the US intelligence community has exposed Pakistan's role in terror once again. The report states that unlike in the past, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will not hesitate to retaliate with force if Pakistan provokes India again. The report states Pakistan has a long history of lending support to anti-India terror groups, and Pakistan-sponsored terror in Jammu and Kashmir remains a flashpoint between India and Pakistan. The US intelligence report points out with both India and Pakistan being nuclear weapon states, tensions remain high and are a cause for global concern.
Basically, this report talks about three interstate conflicts, in which two of those conflicts India features in. One is between India and Pakistan, and the other one is between India and China. The third is Armenia and Azerbaijan, which is somewhat of an active front right now, although there is a tense kind of a peace which prevails out there.
It was back in 2019 when former Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Fali Homi Major reiterated India's stance that India's political will to retaliate against Pakistan terror had increasingly grown under the Modi government. He said that the IAF was ready to strike at terror launchpads and training camps across the LOC after the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks in 2008. This was the worst terror attack on Indian soil, killing 166 innocent people. But then, in 2008, Dr. Manmohan Singh's government not to give clearance for an airstrike.
The main thing is the political will to undertake an airstrike, and this is my guess, but I think I would be right, that perhaps our intelligence gathering, all kinds of intelligence collection has improved, and we are sure of targets to use air power so that to avoid collateral damage under these kind of conditions.
In stark contrast, after the Pulwama terror strike, Indian Air Force fighter jets not only crossed the line of control but hit the Jaish-e-Mohammed terror training camp in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, sending out a clear message: India will punish terror even in mainland Pakistan and not just POK to preempt terror attacks. Red-faced on global stage, once again, Pakistan has struck down this crucial US intelligence threat assessment report, calling themselves a victim of terrorism and blaming India instead. But the message remains loud and clear. Pakistan state-sponsored terror will be punished if there is a terror attack traced back to Pakistan. Bureau Report, India Today. So what should one make of this US intelligence assessment? Joining me on India First, Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain, former General Officer Commanding of the Srinagar-based 15 Corps, the Chinar Corps, and Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi, Executive Director, Center for International Strategic Studies. He joins us from Pakistan. General Hasnain, for Indians, it's perhaps clear as day, especially after surgical strikes post-Uri and Balakot airstrikes after Pulwama, Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror will be punished. What do you make of the US assessment, sir?
I fully endorse what is there included in this report. The very fact that India had decided very early that it will punish Pakistan for any act of misdemeanor. It is obvious that after the surgical strikes and after the Balakot strike, the message has gone home very clearly. The international community has woken to it, and the commitment that the government seems to have acquired is obviously there for everyone to see. We have to also keep in mind the fact that Prime Minister Modi made every effort towards peace in the year 2015. Yes. It's only after that when we were struck in Pathankot, thereafter the year 2016, when we were struck in Uri, that we started responding. Now, this response is not a massive response. It is something which is escalatory. It is something which is graduated, based upon the kind of strikes which has taken place on our soil. So, this is obvious that India is not going to allow this kind of an action by Pakistan in the future to go unpunished. That is the message which is coming out clear from this report.
Let me get Ambassador Naqvi to respond to this. Sir, do we hope against hope Pakistan will act at least against UN designated terrorists, perhaps like Hafiz Saeed or Masood Azhar, for acts of terror in India? or at least ensure there is no escalation of hostilities and a repeat of Balakot-like punitive or preemptive strikes, Ambassador?
You see, the whole perspective that you have tried to convey and the India Today report and all that, it shows that India has been very tough with Pakistan and has punished Pakistan and all that. This is not the approach, my friend, of two self-respecting, responsible states. Pakistan has made it very clear in its statement that it is against terrorism. It has taken all kinds of action. We have had a very big military operation, the Zarbul Azb, under which we were able to stamp out terrorist camps and all that. Terrorism exists all over the world, not just in Pakistan. It exists in India. India has been,
Sir,
in fact,
very humbly, sir, very humbly,
Listen,
you know,
let
if
me
I may,
speak.
sir,
The
this
point
false
is
parallels
that
with India does not serve the purpose of any discussion and debate. It may help you domestically.
Does not point out that Pakistan has been doing this or that in terms of supporting terrorism. They only say that India will retaliate if provoked. Now, India will not be provoked. This is a wrong
Sir, Pulwama was a provocation. Uri was a provocation. Ambassador General Hasnain wants to respond. General Hasnain wants to respond. Okay, General Hasnain.
Gaurav, I'm sorry to say it. I'm sorry to say it. Sir, please allow me a minute. Sir, can you give me a minute just to briefly explain to you? Sir, would you like me to come in for a second?
Ambassador, the General wants to respond.
You need to respect your fellow speakers. Please let us also speak. We have to respond to what you're saying. Now, it's very, very clear, Ambassador Naqvi, that your understanding of terrorism, international terrorism, is way away from any type of focus that we have upon it. Obviously, you are not aware that Pakistan's terrorism...
One by one. Ambassador, I'll just come back to you. Okay. Ambassador, I'll just come to you for a moment. Go on, General.
The Ambassador come with a brief out here to keep interrupting us. This is the normal procedure which is followed from Pakistan. They always like to come and interrupt our programs in this manner. Ambassador Naqvi, if you've got any sense of balance here, please allow me to speak.
Go on, General.
It's very clear, sir. The fact is that you don't seem to be aware that the kind of terrorism which Pakistan follows is sponsored proxy war, which it is carrying out in the state of Jammu and Kashmir for the last 34 years.
Not correct.
You may have fought in... Sir, please,
General,
hold on.
Ambassador, let the General complete his point. I'll come back to you.
There is, you have all the examples you have quoted are internal examples against the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Operation Zarb-e-Azb. Did you target a single Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist? Did you ever target a Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorist? You only targeted the terrorists who were targeting you. What about the terrorists who you were sponsoring to target us? You never did it. And that is the reason why such reports come out.
That's not correct.
Okay, Ambassador, Ambassador, here we'll talk on facts. You know, we're all people. It's a very transparent world. We live in a global village. Pakistan's lies are not accepted by anyone, sir. And you yourself are a victim of terror. Where your army is responsible, sir. Your army trained Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, and they are killing your people. And yet you have a deal with TTP, sir. You're such an intelligent man. Wouldn't you advise your army not to do that?
No, army did not train the Tehreek-e-Taliban. The Taliban, Afghan Taliban, actually helped the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. And the government of Pakistan has always been against the TTP. Your own...
Sir, who permitted the TTP leader after Army Public School Peshawar leave when he was in your custody?
Was against the Tehreek-e-Taliban. The Zarb-e-Azb offensive of the military was against the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. So how could the military have created something that they themselves were fighting against?
That is the beauty of Pakistan, sir. You create your demons yourself, and then you have no idea how to control them. You have created these demons for the last 30 years. And they are the
What
ones who are now
about
coming back to
Indian
target you.
sponsoring of terrorism in Balochistan and Kulbhushan Yadav, the spy who was caught red-handed by Pakistan?
You go to
let's
Chabahar
not
and
keep on
you go to
speaking of-
Chabahar and arrest an innocent man, and then you call him a
No, he
terrorist.
didn't go. He was arrested in Balochistan. He was not arrested in Chabahar. That's
Off
the Indian
Chabahar,
line.
this side.
So
you go and
my
arrest a man,
only
innocent
point
man
is,
for nothing.
Ambassador Naqvi, if educated, intelligent Pakistanis who've lived overseas, people like you, if you talk the same language as, you know, those who've studied in madrasas of Pakistan and, tie a belt around themselves and blow up somewhere in Peshawar, killing your own people, how will Pakistan ever improve?
This is an old story, my friend, about Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism. You have tried to live off that story for many years, and now
But we are not the only ones saying it. sir.
The America
the US
is saying
report
it.
is saying it.
The American assessment
the
is...
American report is saying it.
if Pakistan provokes India, now Pakistan is not likely to provoke India, so the report is based on wrong assumptions.
Sir, Pakistan is
No, that-
unlikely to
that
provoke
is your
India because
hypothesis.
Pakistan has no money. But that's the point I was coming to, General Hasnain. Poverty-stricken Pakistan, which may not have money even to feed its people, will it use terror as an instrument of state policy, as diversionary tactics for Pakistan army, which is being abused day in and day out on the streets of Lahore now, as diversionary tactics, sir?
Gaurav, you
Yeah,
and I know it very well, the unpredictable factor of Pakistan. You can't predict anything which the Pakistan leadership is thinking at any stage. They are the world's best conflict initiators. I'm sure the ambassador will agree with me. The initiation of the Kargil conflict was outstanding. But Pakistan never has an idea how to terminate a conflict. The problem is you get so stuck into your own morass that you never know where to finish it. And that's exactly what is happening here. Now you're broke today, no money in your coffers at all. And maybe for a moment you may you may stop this for the moment. But as soon as the contingencies come up, as soon as you get your money back, some amount of money back, as soon as your economy is on balance, perhaps you'll start the whole cycle again. And that is why the international community is wary of this and is giving us warnings about it.
Ambassador?
It's not we who are giving warnings.
Yes.
The US report is not the international community, my friend. And I disagree with its assumptions and I disagree with their conclusions because this is not correct. And you are spreading a story which is no longer valid. It's old hat.
Sir,
It's gone.
may
I have been
think
to
so.
as many countries. I have been to as many countries as you have been, and I can assure you, almost everywhere in the international community, people point a finger only at Pakistan.
Ambassador,
you are known.
That's
even
not
Afghanistan tells you not to spread terror. Imagine Taliban tells you not to spread terror and sort out things in your own country. Sir, I mean, how bad can things be for Pakistan when Taliban tells Pakistan army, when Taliban kills Pakistan army? Sir, how sad can Pakistan's life be?
It
happened at Chaman border 4 days ago.
Wrong basis of arguments, and that's not correct.
Sir,
that,
what world do you live
Taliban
in?
and
You are the
killing
executive
Pakistan.
director of CISS. Is Taliban not killing Pakistan army soldiers at the Chaman border?
Well, there is a disturbed border where there are people who are attacking some soldiers in the army, and Pakistan is dealing with that situation.
Sir, you had
That
9
happens in many
fatalities 3
countries.
days ago.
That happens in many borders all over the world.
Sir, fair enough. You may live in denial. I mean, that's actually Pakistan's bad luck or whatever the general may think it is. You may continue to live in denial, but will that denial cost you? And will that denial then lead to what was said in the Pakistani parliament? And I've run out of time, but I'd love to play that on another day. वो पाकिस्तान के आर्मी चीफ के पैर कांप रहे थे and they said खुदा के लिए छोड़ दो वरना 9 बजे इंडिया अटैक कर देगा. I leave you with that thought. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Ambassador Naqvi and General Hasnain, as always, many thanks for joining me. A quick break. Abha Bakaya comes up next with Business Today. Stay with us.
India Today Conclave 2023, March 17th and 18th, New Delhi. Listen to P. Chidambaram, Amitabh Kant, Neelkant Mishra, PTR Tyagarajan, Anil Agarwal. The India Moment.
I had a dream when I was 8 years old. I wanted to touch the stars. And I thought, what is the easiest way to touch the stars? Let's become a pilot. When I was in 11th grade, as a pilot, I had to take science. One of my teachers at that point in time, she called me, Zoya, why have you taken science? I'm like, because I want to become a pilot. She says, have you seen like your, family background? Have you seen where you come from? Do you think you can become a pilot? Your family will not be able to make you, become a pilot. मैं बोलती हूँ अगर मुश्किलें कम हो तो फिर मज़ा थोड़ा कम आता है ना. लड़की है, अपना बड़े होके अच्छा सा लड़का मिल जाए और उसके बाद अपना घर संभालेगी, right? Those are the exact dreams that my mom had for me. That 8-year-old Zoya who pushed me when I was 8 years old, when everything seemed to go against me, still stays inside of me, and she continues to push me every single day to follow her dreams, to do more. I never wanted to play with dolls. They were not my thing. I wanted a telescope. So my mom was always scandalized by me from the very beginning. She thought that there is something deeply wrong with this one child that she has, that she wants to have a telescope and not kitchen set and Barbie dolls. But that's what I wanted. And when I broke the news to her that I want to become a pilot, she said that, oh my God, भगवान ने हमारे को एक ही बच्ची दी है और वो भी इतनी अलग सी. So she started crying.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking from the flight deck once again. Welcome on board this history-creating maiden flight from San Francisco to Bengaluru.
For the first time in the aviation history, there was a crew, a team of all women who were flying over the North Pole on one of the world's longest, Air India's longest flight, between two Silicon Valleys, San Francisco to Bengaluru, which turned a whole new leaf in the world's aviation industry. The whole world was excited, and Air India was excited, India was excited, and we were beyond thrilled.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Alha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. A poll by Ola founder Bhavish Aggarwal exposes the chinks in India's EV plans. Respondents say the lack of charging infrastructure is a big hurdle. Cost and range anxiety, other big problem areas. Sensex ends below 60,000 as auto, consumer, tech and banking shares drag the indices lower. Nifty falls 165 points as persisting interest rate hike fears keep investors cautious. Mukesh Ambani adds fizz to the Desi soft drink market, resurrects the Campa Cola brand. The heritage brand will be available in 3 flavors to take on Coca-Cola and Pepsi, to be launched in Andhra and Telangana first. Sportswear brand Adidas set to post its first loss in 31 years. The company is forced to write off $527 million in Yeezy branded merchandise after ending its 9-year partnership with Kanye West. What does cryptocurrency trade being brought under the Money Laundering Act mean for traders and exchanges? Former Interpol investigator and current head of law enforcement at Binance answers in an exclusive conversation with BGTV. A poll by Bhavish Agrawal has exposed the biggest chinks in the country's EV plans. The Ola founder asked a simple question on Twitter: what's the biggest barrier for you to buy an EV? The response has been huge and can be a good guide to the government in tweaking its EV policy.
Holi celebrations at the Ola Giga factory, a video shared by the company founder and CEO Bhavish Agrawal. Agarwal also uploaded this video, his own take on his future factory bots joining in on the Holi fun. Meanwhile, this poll also appeared on his Twitter feed with the question, what's the biggest barrier for you to buy an EV? The response was huge with around 19,000 votes. The biggest hurdle, it seems, is the lack of charging infrastructure, with more than 30% of the respondents choosing this as the #1 reason. The higher cost of EVs is the second reason. There also seems to be considerable apprehension among customers whether the EV battery will last 5 years. Around 80% of the respondents had range anxiety, a fear that the battery would give out during a trip. The poll triggered more than 500 responses, with people quick to share their suggestions. Customers from as far as Chhattisgarh were inquiring about hyperchargers, with another user suggesting that chargers be installed outside restaurants, cafes and other locations besides gas stations. There were also complaints of government subsidy on electric vehicles not percolating to the customer. But most took the opportunity to raise various other issues of services related to deliveries, of deadlines not kept, and of accessories still to be installed. While the poll clearly highlights the gaps in the sector, the government has also been taking steps to promote the EV space in India. In the Union Budget presented last month, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced a policy to support battery energy storage systems with a capacity of 4,000 megawatt-hour with viability gap funding. She also mentioned an outlay of 35,000 crore rupees for priority capital investments towards energy transition and net zero goals till 2070.
In the month of October last year, we did a ground report on the EV charging infrastructure in Delhi NCR, where we found most of the EV charging stations that we encountered were either broken or were out of service. This just shows there's a gap between what we want EV adoption to be and the ground reality. This was Akanksha Chaturvedi for Business Today TV.
Equity benchmarks today returned to negative territory, halting a 3-session winning streak. The domestic indices dragged lower by automobile, consumer technology, banks, financials and energy stocks. Mid and small cap shares also finished on a weak note. Sensex was down over 500 points, closing below 60,000. Nifty also down at 17,589. We did have a few gainers like Tata Steel, L&T, Apollo Hospitals, Airtel and Cipla. Among the biggest index losers were Adani Enterprises, M&M, SBI Life, Reliance Industries and Adani Ports. Chairman of the US Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, had to face some uncomfortable and tough questions by a panel of senators about his monetary policy. He was grilled on whether the rate hikes by the US Central Bank were accelerating joblessness in the US. The grilling happened even as the Fed chairman announced that there could be faster rise in interest rates than previously expected.
Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, in his monetary policy testimony to the US Senate, a regular semi-annual event, but the outcome was anything but the most powerful central banker in the world dashed hopes that the era of interest rate hikes was over. He in fact hinted that the pace of rate hikes could be quicker in the future.
As I mentioned, the latest economic data have come in stronger than expected, which suggests that the ultimate level of interest rates is likely to be higher than previously anticipated. If the totality of the data were to indicate that faster tightening is warranted, we'd be prepared to increase the pace of rate hikes. Restoring price stability will likely require that we maintain a restrictive stance of monetary policy for some time.